Thank you for chatting with us today to talk about how small businesses can do business like the People's Shark. So speaking of communications, how do you think we can all be better communicators with our customers, especially leveraging some of the mediums that you mentioned, like phone calling, messaging via or chats, or using video conferencing? What would you recommend?
Well, first of all, it's to, obviously we all are of service when we are valuing our customer, and communication to your customer doesn't always need to be you're selling something, right? To know when their birthday is and just to say, happy birthday or whatever the case is, or Mother's Day or Veterans Day, whatever the case is, because, think about it. You walk by a store on the street. Everything we're doing is just on different platforms. But if you walk by a store on the street and somebody's always handing you a flyer going, buy this, buy this. Hey, Esther, how come you aren't buying today? How come? You're going to cross the street the next time. All right, but if you're walking by, hey, I'm selling something, and tomorrow they'll be like, hey, Esther, hey, sooner or later, what are you doing? Also, it was a study, MIT study, that over 90% of the most profitable products in Fortune 100 companies came out of customer complaints. Now, a lot of people don't believe that a customer complaint is of value, but it is, because as all of us, we don't have to complain. We have more than enough options of where else to go. If we don't tell you why we were dissatisfied with your service, your product, or whatever the case is, then you will never know, right? And that means there's something you can't fix. However, if you're communicating with that customer, and we all felt this, hey, Esther, I have a problem with this, I didn't really like this, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna take it in consideration, we'll get back to you. Guess what I'm saying tomorrow? You know that company over there, Esther? She's listening to me. She listens to me. You become, your customer becomes, they say, twice as obsessed with you and your brand. And you also find out things that are broken potentially. If you have this ketchup that you got to hit this glass bottle on the 57, and then you got to put water, it doesn't really come out that right. But then when sales for that same company goes around, sees everybody's ketchup bottles are upside down in their refrigerator, well, hence they come out with a plastic bottle with a larger base for the top, and they increase their revenue by 17%. It's called Heinz. It's a pretty big company. So think about that. That came out of customer complaints.
I love that. It's the not just embracing failure, embrace feedback. Right? That's how you grow. It translates to personal relationships as well. If you're told, oh, you're the best, and you're not, given constructive criticism, how are you going to grow? And I think that same philosophy, as you mentioned, applies to small businesses. Be receptive and create that open line of communications for feedback. I think that's an incredibly powerful call to action. So building and maintaining customer loyalty is essential. What do you find are some of the best practices for creating really strong customer experiences and building customer loyalty?
Well, finding out, trying to find and define the commonality that all the customers have, and trying to grow with that and trying to give them exactly that. But again, one of the biggest challenges that people have is they don't have the best way to have customer service. And we've all been there when we felt like after we had a transaction, nobody valued us. And that is really where you keep customer loyalty, when you are, first of all, transparent in one aspect. And I see this all the time on Shark Tank. When the companies on Shark Tank, after they air, and thank God, they can get anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. If they don't communicate with their customer and say anything, well, they start to get probably about 10 to 15% people drop off every week. But if they say, thank you so much, our dream has just happened to go on a Shark Tank. Unfortunately, we could not predict the demand in this, but we love the fact you're supporting us. We can either take a deposit, or we can wait and circle back with you in 2 months, 6 months, whatever the case is. But we are so, appreciative for you. People then, the sales only decreased 2% over that period of time. It's just because they answered them, right? They don't stick their head in the sand. And when you're communicating like that with customers, remember, there's only 3 ways to ever deal with a customer, right? You either can acquire a new one, you can upsell a current one, or make one buy more frequently. But acquiring a new customer is 20 times harder than upselling one or making one buy more frequently. And the key to upselling them or making them buy more frequently is either saying, hey, since you did this and you've been loyal, I have something else for you. Or what else would you like to see in there? Or, you know, your birthday's coming and here is discounted, or whatever the case is. And it's always that communication. So it's really about making your customers feel like they're part of a community.
I'm so glad you mentioned those stats, because it's not even just a matter of it's the right thing to do. It's a great thing to do to keep your customers and treat them well, right? But there is a benefit to the organization, to the small business. Like you mentioned, 20 times, I've also heard 20 times cheaper, more cost effective to keep a customer than to acquire a new
Well, it's
customer.
the same thing, right? It's either spinning it out this way or retaining it, right? Sometimes it's not the more business you're doing, it's the more you're saving. You either increase sales or reduce costs. We're talking the same exact thing, you know?
People are essential to any part of your business, right? Whether it's your customers, your partners, your employees. So what do you do to keep those relationships strong? What are, quite honestly, would love to know what your toolkit is to keep those relationships strong.
You know, I'm learning just like everybody else in this new day and age. My toolkit has always been to have an open door of communication, allow people to feel like they can voice whatever's going on in their life. It doesn't mean you're going to necessarily agree. Hopefully have a little bit of transparency to tell them what I'm dealing with, in returns, not personal matters, right? This person showed up to work. And this person is working, either they want to feed their family, they want to grow in the company, whatever the case may be. But showing them how the business works if they feel like they're stumbling, and understand this is our end goal in the business, and if you can help with this, then this is how we are rewarded. But it's really about transparency and openness. And I can't say that you're necessarily going to have the best results from it, but at least you left everything on the field and there was not the gray area. And even when that happens, there still will be gray areas, but it's constantly trying to improve on the communication. But greater leadership is the best part. I love leaders that are smarter than me. And I want to allow them to communicate with what they feel is the best interest of the company, because I don't need anybody if I'm smarter than everybody else, then there's a problem. And that's the best part about leadership. If you really allow people to take action and really, make their decisions, and, you show up when the time is needed because you have to run your division.
I'm getting 3 key themes that I'm hearing over and over, and I love it because it's being so crystallized in my brain, hearing you answer all these questions. It's the humility aspect of knowing when you're not the smartest on a certain topic. And it's the discipline of optimization, continually looking at how do I make things better, whether it's your operating model or it's how you communicate with your teams, always evolving and learning. And then the last one I'm hearing is just staying intentional. Be deliberate in everything that you do. Nothing should be necessarily an accident. Be thoughtful in the way you communicate to your customers, not just trying to pitch to them like everybody else all the time. These are really amazing foundational principles for a lot of small businesses.
Right, because you even look at the RingCentral platform. When you go, you can have your own number and various other things. That's not like some of the other things out there. It's I float around. That's no, be intentional. This customer wants this. We have this because this is the way that you want to communicate, and people feel better going directly to you in this source or whatever. So you have various different platforms or ways to communicate in RingCentral. And I love that because you're giving a lot of different options so people can be intentional on which one they like. You have to be intentional about your business.
Totally. We actually see that quite a bit. Some customers, especially when it comes to things like healthcare appointments, they prefer texting. They don't want a phone call because it's very time consuming. Sometimes they don't want an email because, it's filled with spam. Partners, they want to have that video conferencing because they're I want to have a face-to-face conversation even if we can't fly to each other. And then, especially on the customer support side, they're I want a phone number so I can talk to a human being. And having all these different options to be intentional about the way the people that help your business thrive want to communicate, I think is critical.